Let's do this. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of What Drives You. I am one of your co-hosts, Stan Windhorn. With me, as always, is my good buddy and co-host Carl Bauer. Carl. I just mixed your two names. From
You've
now
done
on,
that.
you're just known as Cower. We're saving time here on What Drives You. Carl, say hi to everybody.
Well, Stan, we're going to have to work on your co-host name pronunciation, but no, I'm doing good. And we got a really special one today. Thank you everybody for joining us. As always, please stay tuned to the end because we're going to have some pretty good words of wisdom, I think, from this special guest, who is Mr. Dave Rozek. Hey, Dave.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Thank
I
you
have
for guys having
known,
me.
yeah, you're welcome. I have known Dave personally in person for just about the last year, but I have known his name around our industry in Chicago for many, many years, and he is kind of one of the experts in all things auto related. And specifically today, we're going to talk about probably one of the hottest topics in the world, and specifically, I think even in automotive, which is AI. So before we do that, Dave, how'd you get in the car biz?
My grandfather got me into the car business, and I worked as a porter for him. Instead of me running the Chicago streets and joining gangs and getting in trouble and fighting and all those things, it was come and clean or come and throw the trash, come and clean the floors, and I just kind of started kind of in the shop and moved my way up. So I'm blessed to have some family that worked in the car business. I'm fourth generation, and my son is fifth generation.
Wow.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. That's real cool. You know, a lot of people who come on here, David, that have been in the car business for a long time. It's a fairly common story where they started off like at the lowest part,
Yeah.
the lowest job they get in a dealership and then work their way up. I also think it's cool that I've actually known you longer than Carl. I didn't realize that until just now, but
It's all right.
Yeah, so Stan and Dave met some years ago when Stan was a head of training for a company called TrueCar, and he
Yep.
was really known for building out the not only the training process and method and terminology, but really the whole strategy behind transferring of trust. And so, Dave, that's going to kind of where they met. And Dave, maybe if you would share with everybody just that compliment that you gave me the other day, which I again still am doubting that. No, just kidding. Stan, it's
It,
Stan, because I
so,
had him at my store too, Dave. So I trust me, I know he's the best.
so I mean, when I was at Napleton, as we rolled out TrueCar, and this was the first time when I was at Napleton as the e-commerce director, Stan was my trainer for TrueCar, and we had acquired back then the Urbana location, and they were hard to adopt, even though the other stores had TrueCar, and we did a bunch of training with Stan. Stan kind of brought our eyes open to a different type of cultural and using a trusted resource and really kind of understanding the type of lead and what a customer went down the well in the sales funnel to get to become a lead, so that it was completely different because the customer had an offer, and not only that, but if you really followed the chain that a customer took in order to submit a lead, there was a lot of questions. It was painful, actually, I thought. But you'd get those leads in, and then a dealer would make the mistake of looking at their CRM and just calling them and saying, hey, what Stan did is he changed our thoughts, and he taught us that, hey, when you're seeing a customer from USAA and that customer is a master chief, in the military, you're going to adjust them. Hey, Master Chief Rozak, this is Stan. And I just wanted to touch base with you because I saw that you put your request in and that you have a set special pricing for the dealer. And I just want to confirm that you have everything, make sure we're on the right vehicle, and then I'm going to coordinate your time and be your personal concierge. So Stan kind of taught us how to be that trusted resource at our dealerships. But where I really got to know Stan a little bit better is when we bought a dealer group in Urbana, and they never had TrueCar, and they didn't believe in TrueCar. In fact, they hated TrueCar. It took a trainer like Stan to come in there and move the needle and get them to understand and realize what a great resource it was. And then next thing you know, they're selling 40 cars a month off a TrueCar. So it became a very wonderful thing. And, ironically, I had the same problem when I went to the Bill Jacobs Group and I became the marketing director there. I remember going to the BMW store in the first 90 days. They hated TrueCar. They didn't want to use it. It was just an expense. It wasn't until Stan actually got in them and retrained the whole group and the managers did we see a turnaround. Next thing you know, again, same story, 30 cars a month on TrueCar. So we always had a success, but it really came down to the communication and the personal attention that Stan kind of dealt with the car guys and car gals, because Stan kind of saw through the bullshit and the excuses pretty quickly and gave us a solution. But the biggest thing is he gave us our why. Why are we selling this? What way and how? And he role played with us, which I'm sorry to say this, but in the car business, the average car salesman gets about 3 days of training as to how to sell a car. Chick-fil-A, for example, gives you 3 weeks. They follow up for 3 months. You're still under training after 6 months. So I guess there's a reason why Chick-fil-A can charge what they charge, but you're really happy to pay for that meal. And, my pleasure is just one of those things where I want to take every salesman and send them to Chick-fil-A's training to learn how to be that much of a concierge and that of a genuine person. So I'm sorry to ramble and take you guys down a rabbit hole, but I kind of get that same feeling from Stan. So Stan, I'm going to stop talking about you.
Well, I'm blushing right now, you guys.
Okay.
But I think we should just stop the podcast right now. I think we've heard everything.
There we go.
No, I'm kidding.
I would
No.
agree, except for Stan. How do I get that communication, and how do I get that?
I'm working with you, Carl. I work with you on a daily basis.
Just check
on a daily basis. Now, listen, thank you guys. I appreciate that. I miss helping car dealers in that way. I really enjoyed what I did for TrueCar back in the day. I'm sorry that TrueCar went so sideways.
You guys might hear a dog barking. Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
no worries. But hey, let's get talking about the important subject here that David's an expert on, and that's AI. By the way, David, I have become a fan, and I'm just at the beginning stages of using AI for some different things, almost really more for some of my little side projects that I do creatively. But I am just blown away by the possibilities. And I know there's a lot of people that fear AI, and I can understand it. It can be a little intimidating when you first start even just playing around with it. But my goodness gracious, it's going to be here whether you like it or not. So I would recommend to everybody to learn what you need to learn about this amazing technology. And so I'm excited to hear more from you and what you're doing with it right now.
Yeah, the amazing thing about AI is that people don't realize that automation's been around since the late 60s. The airline industry kind of figured that out with the way they handle ticketing and how they assign seats. Up until then, it was kind of a free-for-all and waiting in line for 3 hours just to get a ticket. Boarding kind of sucked, and offboarding and finding your luggage. So they put like automation to this and, started using a computer to kind of come up with it. And all it was really just workflow. And it still is today. It really hasn't changed. Most of the AI today that we see is really just a workflow bot. It's just automation. It's trained automation to general responses. There are a few AI products, though, that can, if you set up the guardrails right, that mimic a lot of human behavior. I ran across one the other day, for example, where this sales AI tool called a customer to do some recall follow-up for service. And he called and said, "Hi, can I speak to Jeff?" And the lady said, "Oh, Jeff is my husband, and I'm sorry, he passed away." And they said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. My condolences for you and your family. If there's anything we could ever do for you, please let us know here at ABC Motors." And she's like, "Oh, well, thank you for that." And the AI is like, "Oh, it's my pleasure. And please, the reason I was calling, and again, if this is a bad time, I can always call you back, but I was calling because your vehicle came up, having a recall, and we have parts, and we'd like to bring the car in if you still have it for that recall." And she said, "Oh, well, that would be great, but I don't know what I'm going to do with this car." And the AI interrupted and said, "Well, that's okay. If you want us to pick it up or you want to drop it off, we'll look at it, and then we can give you a private offer on the vehicle. Would that be okay?" She goes, "Oh, that would be awesome." And she booked the appointment. But here's the weird thing about that AI. It was never set up to say or do that.
How
It learned
does it do it?
conversations. It learned empathy. And the COO of that company the other day, Sue Lynn, told me, she goes, we set up guardrails of kindness so that it learned empathy, so that it learned to speak with empathy, and it learned to reason when it heard certain keywords that triggered certain responses. And I said, but did you ever program it to say my condolences? And it said, she's like, no. She goes, but it was the first time for us. It was amazing that it actually did that. So here's the weird, I mean, it was kind of scary that it did that without being programmed to do that, but it got to know human, issues and problems enough, because the AI today is reading all things on the internet. And I think that's why it's so important to understand your generative SEO. And it's so important to understand your brand theater, which is those wow moments you give people, but how the public views you, from your reputation to how you're socially engaging with the world, and how people say this is a good place. They're the authority. They're local. They sponsor little Timmy's baseball team. They're not a BBB problem. They pick up your car. They have amenities. They do all these wonderful things. And, many times in a dealership, we spend money on social media. We worry about reputation. We worry about the internet. And when it first came on, I worked for dealers to go, Dave, the internet doesn't sell cars. People do. And I'm like, guys, that's not really true. I said, the internet is your next showroom floor. And they're your first salesperson. Your first salesman is the internet. But before the internet can even be introduced or bring them to their sales floor, you have to have good search. You have to be able to be found. And now with AI, it's not about keywords. It's about who has the most trust, who is the most genuine, who can I buy that gives a good experience, and that's what it really comes down to. And who has, it's not just I'm buying because, and 70% of people still do this, they buy a car because of location or selection. Then it defaults to reputation. So as a car dealer, we use all these fancy pay-per-click products, all these listing sites, and they're all wonderful, right? But the sale gets lost immediately after they find the car and go, okay, they have the same Kia K4 that everybody else has. What sets them apart? Price is about the same. There's 3 dealerships in each direction that I go. Who do I buy it from now? What's important now? So now you have to ask those trust questions. You have to look at people's reviews. Well, AI is indexing all of that. And AI is constantly doing this every 30 days for fresh data going, this person gives great experiences. And I'll give you an example. I posted an article on LinkedIn the other day, and I said, go to Google and ask, who is the local dealer I could trust to buy a new car from? Okay, now I didn't say, I'm sorry, the word new car. I just said a car. And ironically, dealers that are 5 miles and 10 miles from my house, 3 used car dealers came up. And the reason it came up is because Gemini and Google couldn't find a lot of data out there from the dealers by me, the AI search engines, because they weren't optimized yet. But the used car guys had reviews that said, this is a trusted dealer. I trust them. So the keyword and phrase was trust, and that they sell cars. So 3 used car dealers trumped the 15 guys in my backyard. So those dealers were invisible. So then I said, oh my God, I better look at how these guys scored. Let me go back and look at what all these dealerships generative scored that are near me. So I ran a report and realized that most of them are at 0, that the AI search engines cannot find them. So I call this internet.
Well, why are they at 0, David? I want to understand this right now.
The reason they're at 0 is because there's 7 main factors to this. And one of the biggest factors is just structured data, which is schema. So schema, if you go to Google's schema tool, you can type in a URL there, and especially for a car dealership, and it tells you in the schema what type of business it is. It'll say, I'm Bill K. Nissan, and at Bill K. Nissan, I sell Nissans. This is my address. These are my hours. This is my phone number. I have service, and I have parts. The average car dealership has 6 to 8 designators. on the homepage, which is your structured data. But an advanced GSO optimized website has thousands of keywords that relate to everything on the internet that has to do with you. They're optimizing not just the website's URL, the main page, but they're optimizing every page. They're optimizing an FAQ, a why to buy from us, a model comparison page. All of these things are what AI is trying to get, because AI's number one purpose is to create human-to-human connection, right? But its secondary purpose, and this is why it hallucinates sometimes, its secondary rule is, I'm going to go out and get you the information you asked me, Stan, the best I can. Even when AI doesn't know the answer, it'll then synthetically go, well, I think this is the answer. And it hallucinates sometimes because it's guessing that this person would probably be a good fit for you, but it doesn't really have the facts yet. So remember back in the day,
is this why it asks questions, Dave? Sometime when I ask something of AI, it'll come back and ask questions that almost are like it's wanting me to clarify just a little bit.
Those are
is that why it's doing that?
Yeah, because the AI doesn't have enough data out there, and you think that it does, but there's so much data on websites and everywhere that's duplicate data. And what happens is duplicate data cancels out other data because it's not original, it's not current. So what AI is looking for is short snippets that get me to the point now. What's relevant now? What's current data now? How does the market feel about them? And are they the trusted authority in 5-mile increments? So when we're talking about overall search and the way that SEO worked, for the longest time, it was based on keywords. But now that's kind of flipped on its head because we're deconstructing that, because what we really want to know is, how do I solve that problem for you? And what do I do for you? It's not, let me give you 1 million pages to go look up on a Google search browser. It's like, no, let me simplify it and speed this process up for you. So if you notice with Gemini and on Google, you have what's called AI overviews. And those AI overviews is giving you a short summary. But most dealers don't accurately score for that either. Most dealers don't have a why buy from us. They don't have a staff page. They haven't done an FAQ page on their website. And not only that, but the stuff isn't current and it's duplicate data. You have to realize that it takes 20 to 30,000 words to overpower and get ranked per page for one line of schema. So there's a short description that says, this is the main point to get me to Stan, because Stan asked me a question, but when it doesn't know, Stan, can you please clarify that with me? Because that's what it really wants to know. Ironically, since we've been here, I've had 3 CFOs call me and 2 regional managers. So I've done something wrong, but that's okay. I just left dealer meetings, and Shift Digital and some other people were there at Mitsubishi talking to a dealer, and I was giving them opinions on things. So hopefully it was to say nice things. Sorry. But again,
so is this what you're doing right now, David? Is you're helping dealers figure out how to optimize the new way of looking for things? And by the way, I'm just going to say this for people who may not be fans of AI yet, but I rarely use Google for things anymore. I'm going to go to AI to find out things, because the difference is kind of like what you just said. Let's just say I'm saying, give me car dealers in this zip code. Google is going to give me, first of all, they're going to give me 5 or 6 that have paid to be there, and they may not even be relevant to that zip code. But then they'll just give me like, here's some website. I still got to do all this searching, where AI will say, here's this one, here's what's good about them, here's this and this, and they take out so many steps of your search and give you that information. So
but the reason I asked you for
questions, the way things are going to go.
Yeah, the reason I asked you clarity questions is AI is based on a question. It's called a prompt. And prompting is just asking better questions. It's just better qualifying, better explaining, and getting a little deeper. So one of the best things that anybody can learn, and something that's taught in schools right now, and I teach classes, I volunteered and helped teach a class on AI to 5th graders. And the whole 40 minutes that I helped teach them, I was teaching them how to prompt. But you know, the funniest thing is I learned more teaching them from them than I taught them. And these were fifth graders, because they came up and said, well, I would ask the question this way. And I went, oh, well, let's put that in. And we learned together. I said, you know, one of the best ways I think to learn is by teaching, because I actually get as much out of it than teaching a class. But here's the thing. I dislike AI. I hate AI with a passion. And everybody that really knows me knows why. Because the artistic person, the music person in me, the person that likes to write, the person that likes to create, the person that likes to do art, the person that likes to solve puzzles. I can take a course of anything right now, and I can just have an AI tool sitting at the top of the page, copy, paste it, and it can give me any answer. So it's no different than when I was a kid, when we used to do longhand math, and all of a sudden we got a calculator. Yeah. And next thing I know, I have a computer program to do it for me. I was so blessed early on in the car business that I learned how to write out a finance contract by hand and a lease, so that when CDK got hacked, speaking of AI, I was able to write out all of our lease contracts by hand still. But, you know, that's a skill set that I feel bad that I think the future of kids will not know. You know, and I don't mean to take us down 20 different rabbit holes, because I can very easily. But I think with AI right now, you have to decide, what do I want to learn with as far as entry level? And then you want to go a little bit further. Okay. When you're wanting to role play sales, for example, I've probably built about 500 GPTs. Most of those I built after my stroke a couple of years ago. So I had a stroke and I was sitting in the hospital, and I had some time in my hands because they said I wasn't going to be able to talk or walk again. They told me I had about 40% brain damage. And I said, really? And they said, you know, you have to relearn and go through, you know, all this therapy. So after about 3 days of falling, I learned how to walk. But while I was rehabbing and staring up at the ceiling, I learned a lot more about AI, because then I started digging into code and I started building these GPTs. So a GPT is just a powerful way of putting a specific topic, almost like an app, but it's just a transformer of information. So when you go to ChatGPT and you click on GPTs, you can look up how to do anything. And it's a simplified way to learn. So I've written courses on F&I mastery course. I've written on B2B sales negotiations, brand marketing. I've written all kinds of courses, from sales to BDC to how to check a tech stack before you add in an AI product, how to more or less figure out how to get all the stakeholders together and hold a meeting as to why we need it, and then how to inspect its daisy chain of security. So, I mean, a lot of people realize there are these GPT tools that you can learn from in ChatGPT, and that's great. But I would recommend that everybody that's watching this learn how to use Perplexity.ai. And the reason why Perplexity is a little bit better is it goes out on the internet and gets real information that it can pull in, not past information. It's trying to find current data. The other thing about Perplexity.ai is it gives you those citations so that you can click on the citation and go to the actual article of where it got the data. Because, you know, again, AI will get you the answer no matter what you ask. It'll tell you a hypothetical answer based on synthetic data. So again, that's just an estimation. Or it'll hallucinate and give you the wrong answer. And I'll say, hey, why did you tell me the miles on that car was 21,000 and the price was 27,000? And AI said, well, I couldn't scan your website and find it. I said, but it's in there. And here's a copy of the image. And it said, oh, well, I said, but answer my question. Why did you do this? And AI will say, well, that's the average price going for this vehicle in the market, and those are the average miles. And I'm like, oh, okay. So you just made up the miles. I said, oh, and everything. I said, well, let me put a buffer in there and guardrails. So I went in AI, and I changed it, and I put up buffers and guardrails for it to take the exact only, if not ask the question, for clarity. So see, we're coming back to that thing of clarity always with AI, because AI is learning. And even if it's your own personal ChatGPT, Perplexity, or whatever, it remembers your conversations. One of the only ones that doesn't is Claude. So Claude, every conversation you have with Claude, every chat is a new conversation. It does not remember you. It does not record your data. It tries to keep everything private. The reason it does this is used primarily by writers and people doing proprietary coding and stuff. So Claude on their paid platform, every time you log in, it's a new conversation. It doesn't know you. It doesn't know your tone, but the other ones kind of do. So with Claude is a great tool for writing and then asking it to humanize and refine it. And again, it comes down to prompts. So if you ever
David, with that,
Sure.
with Claude, just to pause there for one
it's
quick second.
Anthropic is the name of the company actually. But Claude is their AI tool.
Oh, Anthropic.
CLAUDE.
Claude.ai. So Claude.ai is where you would write an article. Like I'll write an article for LinkedIn. I'll do some research of data. And then what I'll do is after I get done, I run it through Claude. And I run it through Claude and say, hey, I need you to spell check this, humanize it, and refine it. And it'll write it and say, and I'll say, but give me suggestions before you update it. So it'll tell me all the things that it thinks I should correct, like my grammar. I always like to type in not in capitals just to say, hey, it's me. So I have certain ways of writing where people know it's not an AI writing. But I always ask Claude to check. And so Claude will give me a different perspective. And there's about 50% of that content that I will switch over on articles to what Claude is saying because it says it better than I do. So it really pisses me off. And then I really hate AI because it can write better than me, right? So Claude is an excellent writing tool, excellent coding tool, a little bit more private and secure. But just remember this, when you're dealing with personal information, customer data, or corporate information, never, ever, ever copy a customer's name, their social, or anything. It's one thing to take a lead response. You can take a lead, just don't copy their name. So copy and paste it in there. And I built a GPT called like Ultimate BDC and Marketing GPT. So if anybody goes to ChatGPT and you click on GPT and you just type in my name, if you type in David Rozek, you'll have a list of free GPTs I built. That's one of them. You can go in there and you can paste a lead in there and it'll give you the email response, the text template, and the phone conversation to have with the customer. So it'll give you the script. So it gives you all three. And the funny thing is it works for a B2B salesperson. If you just say, act as a TrueCar salesperson or act as an account rep for Auto Trader and the dealer says the leads suck, it'll tell you how to refocus that general manager in the conversation and overcome their objection.
So basically,
David, I know Carl's got a question, but before that, the first one that you talked about,
Carl,
I think you called it Flexity.
Perplexity with P.
Perplexity.
Yeah, Perplexity. PER. So perplexity.ai is probably, it's great for citations. You know, when you're looking in, here's the other thing too, is you can use 3 or 4 AIs. Like I'll talk to Copilot. I'll look for some research on ChatGPT, maybe I'll talk to Gemini, but then I'll take the 3 conversations, paste it into Perplexity and say, hey, I'm going to copy the following to you, act as me in my tone, do it in a bold way with a little bit of humor, but be professional because it's going to be for LinkedIn. It's going to be for an article, but do me a favor and make sure that you combine the 3 conversations with the main point of X. So when I ask that, then it's going to give me a summary. It's going to blend in the conversation, and Perplexity is going to say, here you go. And at the same time, it's going to find citations within those articles to validate what I'm talking about. So if I'm talking about cybersecurity and I'm explaining to everybody a legal law or a rule, or maybe why your DMARC isn't set up properly in your email, and you may have the best CRM, but because your email URL is not set up properly, it shows as spam after 2,000 emails in a campaign. And people are like, well, I'm sending all these emails and I'm not getting all these responses. And I said, well, that's because your DMARC isn't right. And that what Perplexity will do is it'll go out and it'll look up what DMARC is. And then it'll ask me, do you want me to explain what DMARC is? Now, then I take all of those and I take that article from Perplexity. And then I go to Notebook LM. And I pasted that conversation or article in Notebook LM, and it builds an AI podcast for me where 2 people will talk about what I had given it. Then it'll ask me, do you want a report? Do you want a white paper? Do you want a case study? Do you want flashcards? Do you want the mind map? So I can take all that just from that data and I can put it into ChatGPT then and say, build a GPT talking about this topic so that I'm an authority, and do it in my own tone so that I'm not plagiarizing anybody. And it'll literally just build it for me in 15 minutes. And that's how I've built so many GPTs over the years. There's no secret. It's just using AI the best way to help you resource. So when I do a go-to-market plan for somebody, there's my knowledge and the people I know, okay? And there may be a pro forma that I figure out for investments. But at the same time, I'm going to look at ChatGPT and other products and say, do this research for me. I look at proprietary data and what I can't share and what I don't want to talk about there, because when you're talking to an AI, it doesn't matter if it says you got privacy on or not. I don't trust it. The internet is wide open anyway. So we just have to remember with AI to respect anybody's proprietary things and patents and ideas. You have to be very vague because you are opening it up to the world in one way or another. Anybody that owns that AI tool, they have all the data to use it any which way they want. Just like you may share information with TrueCar on a customer's buying habits, but when you leave TrueCar, technically that's their property because the lead came in through TrueCar. You may have paid for it and they may have shared it with you. But again, it all becomes open on the internet. The other day, somebody asked me about Copilot and they said, David, I was talking to Copilot to put my notes, into, I forget what their CRM, Salesforce, let's say. And it was pushing information and they were having some problems there, but they said, hey, I'm updating everything in Copilot and it's taking a snapshot. And I said, yes, what's happening with Copilot is it's an AI. It takes images and it stores that. I said, now your private settings could be set. I said, but keep in mind, at any given time, a vendor of theirs could become compromised. And all those images that you snapped and all those spreadsheets of data for your customers and financials, Copilot just shared it with the world and you didn't even know it happened. Now, Microsoft will tell you that's not true, but the reality is that, it is true. You can hack into that stuff.
Did you, so what I was going to say earlier was, it sounds like almost Stan could take his 12 or 13 years of training expertise and build a Stan AI, Stan training module or GPT.
Yep.
But I also, after you finish this last example, Stan, you and I are out of jobs because we could just, David could take the ideas of our podcast.
I don't buy that.
Put it in
because AI doesn't know human behavior. When it really, it can, you can put, step A to step B to step C, and you can build a flow chart. AI can drive our car. AI cannot navigate the potholes because it doesn't understand the roadmap and it doesn't understand the nuances. It doesn't understand that at 3:00 on a Friday, traffic's going to suck coming out of Chicago to get home to Naperville, right? I should have left at 11 because the weekend started at lunchtime. But AI doesn't know that. AI can remember certain things of traffic patterns, but it doesn't predict those things. It can't predict human, unpredictability. Let's put it that way. It just doesn't know because we as humans are too unpredictable, and it takes people to solve that. So you need AI to solve the mundane things, but you need you need human oversight. AI is supposed to give us our superpowers. It's supposed to help create human-to-human connection. It's supposed to help generate things and answer questions for us. It hasn't got to the point where it's self-aware. This is not science fiction. It really isn't. And we're nowhere near that yet, although we've seen some weird things happen with it. But keep in mind.
Well, the example you gave earlier about my condolences.
Yeah.
I didn't program it for that. It learned it, right?
But what we told it to is we said that, we need to have kindness and empathy. And that's just it. They told it to be kindness and empathy. So what it did is it went to its knowledge base and said, I need to be kind and empathetic. How would I deal with this when this comes up? So it started solving things because all the knowledge base of the internet is really there to it, right?
Yeah.
But what's true and what's a fact is why we need to come up and we need to teach an AI just like we need to teach a person, because you don't have good morals when you're a young man in the military. You're going to bars on your whatever, you're doing whatever, you're having a good time, you're being a young man. That's great, right? Well, it takes you a while to figure out what's right and how to live, a decent life and how to treat people with respect. We all have different, growing up, and most of our parents did a pretty good job, I think, right? But then we still have crime and we still have theft. I don't think AI is trying to steal anything from us, but I think that AI can be manipulated to do that. Because you can ask AI all kinds of questions. I mean, we saw it just recently in the news where they said that guy that started the California fires or something used ChatGPT, and the police used the records of what he asked. They're going to use it to, put him in jail because he asked something like a question to ChatGPT is, can you be arrested for starting a fire with a cigarette by accident? Just different questions, and then images he created with AI of a fire. So, I mean, and again, I don't know the whole story, but I heard about it in Clubhouse. DG, one of the people there that talks in the morning, they had talked about this, but it's interesting because AI, what it's doing is try to take all things on the internet, Reddit post, Facebook post, reviews about your business, just anything there is about you. It's trying to build a profile on every individually, every IP address. So every person has an IP address. Every home address has an IP address. Every computer has an IP address, has a MAC address. Every, device we have has an address. And what AI is doing is trying to attach a trust level with every address. So the more times that you can tell generative SEO that I'm a good person, I do things the right way, I have this for you, and this is what I do in comparison, I'm the trusted authority that's closest to you, the more then you'll show up. And then once you show up and get found, then you have to think about your brand and how people are going to judge you after that. Before you ever think about your paid and your listing sites and all that stuff, we have to think about how well we are optimizing the community. And are we good concierge? So sorry to ramble about that, but that's really the way AI has been set up now.
Let's go back just a fuzz because,
sure.
Like you said, and you and Stan need to connect, by the way, offline because Stan has been using. He's a very talented magician and musician. Well, singer anyway, but he has been using AI to build these tricks that are it's unbelievable that he learned this. And so I don't know which platform that is, Stan, and you guys can talk about that offline. But the fact that he took his time out and learned that just blew me away. And I was very, very proud to see that finished product, even though it's not, even close to being done, but it's amazing what he did in just short order. So for dealers, a couple quick questions. Are car dealers going away?
No.
Okay. Good news to all our car dealer
the way we sell them is going to go away because it's all about convenience. It's all about meeting the customer where they need. It's all about an AI persona helping you making a purchasing decision from the trusted resource. If I say I'm looking for a small SUV that I could put a child seat in to keep my family safe, that I could get 30 to 40 miles per the gallon, that has the best insurance rating, and I could keep my payment under $700 a month. AI, that's a very complex question right now for AI to figure out. It probably will only get 3 out of 6 of those right to a point, but it will try to summarize and give you the best answer based on what it can find on the internet. But let's just say you answered all those questions on an FAQ page on your website. When people went to Google and asked a question, you actually went to your Google business profile and answered those questions. And then you actually talked about those things. You had a fun fact Friday video. You had a Tuesday service tips video. You have a CSI score and you have reviews that not only are on Google, but they're on Dealer Rater and they're on a listing site. So now you got link back popularity. Now you've built trust. And then in your schema, you say, I'm the trusted dealer for over 40 years on this particular product. I sell genuine parts. And when you build your schema right and your words, not more than just saying, I sell cars. You want to say more than that. You want to be more than that. You want to be the resource that says, I don't think about anybody else of doing business with except for Stan when it comes to doing my training. That's why I would talk to him.
So practically,
or magic tricks.
yeah. Or so practically, we may not need as many salespeople or BDC people.
Maybe the difference is that you really cannot replace a BDC person, and the reason is that a BDC person could read the tonality of a customer and they can reason with them, because people in general, this isn't buying a car and not here for a lot of things. All people want to do is schedule their dentist appointment. But have you ever talked to automation and saying, hi, I'd like to order your prescription from an AI? Oh my God, that's painful. Because you talk to the AI, you place your prescription, it validates that you have some or it doesn't. It can't move forward. And no matter what you told the AI, you still got to talk to a pharmacist. And you just wasted 20 minutes. And, so again, that's bad programming. That's a bad experience. So AI, in general, 30% of the time, it gives a shitty experience. And I don't want my customer to have a bad experience when I have people there that can talk to you. If you take a hybrid approach, or you take an approach of let the phone pick up in 7 rings. Now, a lot of people are going to hear that and go, oh my God, Dave, that's too long. Well, there's a reason I said that, because the first 3 or 4 rings never get to the dealership because of voice over IP and the internet. But most people are not that technical. They don't realize that. But anyway, the difference is people need an AI persona to help them with their tasks and mundane tasks after hours. I mean, I want to know your tow company. If I have a flat, when does that flat usually happen? Late at night, I'm getting in my car, I'm leaving the restaurant or a bar or the grocery store, my tire's flat. Ah, shit, I got to call roadside assistance. Well, guess what? My car's out of warranty. What do? You call the dealership. You get hit to some voicemail. No, what you needed to do is have a voice AI there after hours. And that voice AI needs to say, hi, what can I help you with? We're currently closed, but how can I assist you? Well, I need to get the number to your towing company. Not a problem. Our local towing company is this. It's 1-800 blank. Let me repeat that to you again. Do you have a pen handy, or do I need to text it to you? And those are the prompts, and those are the things that you want to set up, because you want to make it convenient. And the AI should ask the question, is the car still under warranty? Because if it's under warranty, you have 1-800 roadside. If not, you want to use L's towing. And hopefully it's not L Bundy. But anyway, so, I mean, having an AI in the dealership, is it going to take the place of people? There's a lot of dealers that think it can. And there's a lot of digital retailing that people think it can. And to a point, yes, it can. But how far do you want to take them down the sales funnel? Because eventually they're going to talk to a person. Now, Tesla, a decade ago, figured out digital retailing. But they didn't lead gate it. They let you build a car. You were forced because you didn't have a dealership then. You had some showrooms and malls, and they weren't everywhere to be found, but they were a fad. You wanted an electric car. It was cool. It was the only way to really do it. You go online, you create a car. You put in your information, though, only when you're ready to give a deposit with Apple Pay. Up until that point, we didn't talk really about you giving me any money. I'll figure your payments out for you. I figured out the price. The price is the price. There was no negotiating. But you've got to go in there and build the car that you wanted. Awesome. You know what? Tesla built a shitty car actually then too. It wasn't that great of a car. I bought one and I'm like, man, this car kind of is cool, but it's electric. It sucks though. Anyway, from all the amenities that I was used to. But they built a much better car now. The process is still easier than a car dealer because they don't lead gate. As soon as I enter in my information to a dealership, I get called 20 times. And here's the point. We as car dealers, for the first week, we hammer them. But the reality is we don't know if they're on day 1 or day 120. And if a person's taking 80 to 120 days to buy, we think we're mind readers, and we just kind of go, oh, they must want to buy. So then now we're going to stick an AI on them. And we don't have one AI sticking on them. We got a chat AI. We got a CRM AI. We got another AI, sales AI, that's going through people that we haven't talked to them. We got the OEM hammering them. And then we got, if they're a current customer, then they got a service AI hammering them. And then you got some marketing company that you're going to market with, and they're going to do some recalls on top of everything else you're doing. Now we have 7 AIs bothering the shit out of me, and I'm not ready to buy a car yet. So what did you cause? You caused aggravation. People call engagement. Well, that's enragement. Okay. And I think AI is on overloaded on steroids by a lot of dealers. The other day I heard of a product that texts a customer at 3:00 in the morning and woke the customer up because they thought it was one of their kids. They opened up their phone and the blue light kept them up, they said, for an hour after it. But they thought it was an emergency. What it was the dealership texting them, telling them that, hey, it's time for an oil change. It's like, wait till fucking 9:00, excuse the language, but it's just, at least wait till 8:00. I don't know. But it's just, sometimes we don't think about the governors. We don't think about the settings. We don't think about the tech stack. And as dealers, we're our own worst nightmare because we don't train people, because we don't think about culture, process, and tech. We then turn to AI and go, let's just do the easy thing because we forgot how to train. You need to look in the mirror and you need to be accountable with your managers first. Let your managers all learn how to use AI and think about how we can improve our bottom line. But we're going to improve our bottom line because some CFO said, I was at a conference. We need to cut some people. Let's not have cashiers because we can have AI do it, or the service writers or the BDC answer the phone. Then it's let's cut the BDC because they can answer the phone. And if they don't get it, the salespeople will get it. Well, we forgot the reason we have freaking BDCs is because the salespeople wouldn't pick up the phone, nor would the managers. And why? Because they were sometimes busy. Okay. They weren't just playing on their cell phones. Well, now we scroll a football field's length on our phone. And that's when we should be training with AI, because when you hire an employee right now, you don't just onboard them about everything in the dealership and how to use everything in the dealership, but you onboarding, teaching them how to prompt, teaching them how to use AI with responses, teaching them how to make them more efficient with everything. That's how we truly use AI right now. To go to something and say, hey, it's going to sell me a car. It can. It can. But you do know that the reason that people buy cars is based on the experience. And maybe the AI is a good experience for them, but not everybody's used to that. 73%, I think, of people is what I read, do not like using an AI for a purchase. Now, we'll all use Amazon. Why did Amazon become even more beneficial to us? Well, COVID happened, and all of a sudden, Amazon blew up. But what's ChatGPT going to do next? ChatGPT has already instant offers. They have this instant checkout, and they made a deal with Spotify and some other companies. Now you can go to ChatGPT, search for something. It'll pull up a Spotify link. You click on it and you buy the product. And eventually ChatGPT goes for a pay-per-click model, because they went from 200 or 100 million users a day to 800 million users a day, which is their current OpenAI conference, I think, last week, with the numbers they were giving everybody. So AI, we're in a wonderful learning time right now, guys. And I'm sorry not to let you guys talk. So
no, it's good. Well, go ahead, Carl.
I think this could be a 4-hour episode if we wanted it to be.
We can go 5.
To in respect of your time and everyone else's, Dave, just one quick nugget. If you were to tell any dealer 101, like, here's what you should do, 30-second pitch about AI, and maybe it's simply contact Dave Rozek or somebody like me, but like it's an intimidating thing, right? I've only played with it a tiny little bit. Stan's gotten into it way deeper than me. A couple of our other friends have too, but it's a powerful, powerful tool if used right. I think the same thing about the internet.
It can be. Yep.
The internet to me is the most amazing tool to connect people and isolate people at the same time. It's this weird dichotomy of the internet. AI is a little bit different, but AI is just an engine that you turn on that wants to keep learning. And until you tell it, stop learning or go this way, it's just going to keep learning, right? And to your point, it's not trying to steal anything. It's just trying to get smarter, right? That's all it's trying to do.
Right. I think that the issue is that we've always had a form of AI in most of our adult lives. And again, it goes back to the beginning in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. We've been constantly having a different form of an AI and automation. The problem is with most people, what they're selling is that's all it is. They're just saying, I'm an AI company. The problem in the dealer world is that most people are selling an AI marketing platform to you in one way or another. The problem is that the AI marketing company doesn't know how to solve being found. So it's all useless unless you first understand your generative SEO. And next, you understand how people view you in your community with your brand theater. When you combine those two, you build something called a Google Knowledge Graph. So the knowledge graph looks like a big spider web of all these points on a graph of everything that relates to you. If you don't build your personal AI persona, if you don't build your brand, if people aren't aware of you, they can't find you and you become invisible. So the biggest problem with a dealership is you're looking for the next shiny new widget. You don't know if it fits. Somebody tells you we should do this. This report tells me how to audit this. For 2 years, I spent and I asked 25 different vendors, how do you audit generative SEO? I only had one company, and they built it specifically for that reason, that could audit a dealer's website. No website provider knew how to do this. No pay-per-click company, no marketing company knows how to do this. It took somebody to reverse engineer it based on the questions that I was asking, because I knew that this was a piece of the puzzle that got the dealers found. And it wasn't anything that I knew. A lot of people knew it. And I asked all these talking heads and I surveyed. People ask me, why do you do so many surveys on LinkedIn? Why do you ask so many questions? Well, I'm building a knowledge base. So I could put that together so I could figure out, if this doesn't work, why? How do I pivot? How do I pivot? How do I adjust? And that's the same way I view everything. So the same way you view an AI and you vet out an AI is the same way you vet out any software. What is the real ROI that's produced for other people? Because a dealer in general just wants to know, how many service customers are you putting through the lane? How many leads are you giving me? And what are we closing at? And what are we making? And what is it costing me? And how much churn do I have doing all this? Because in today's market, I was talking to a dealer earlier today, and he said, Dave, it seems like I need to add on 10 more tools, but how many more cars am I going to sell? And I said, you're not really going to move the needle, because most of AI products are just making the customer experience better. That's it. Because it's the same amount of customers who are in the market buying the car. It's just a matter of who. I said, there's a reason that over 50% of customers have no brand loyalty anymore to any particular dealer. And it's simply because they want a better experience and they want to get to know you. And you know what? People's jobs change. People's life change.
So let me summarize.
You know what, Carl?
Stan, hold on before you go.
Okay, go ahead.
I think what I'm hearing you say is, before you spend time, money, resources, effort, know who you are and how to be found.
Yep.
And what your business is, then start looking at AI.
Yeah, you got to ask the why.
Yeah.
You got to ask your whys.
Carl, what I was going to say is, we've had a lot of guests, and a lot of times we've said, we need to do another episode with you, but I honestly think we're going to need to do 2 or 3 with you, David. So
yeah.
I mean, there's just so much great stuff here, and we do want to be respectful of your time. I'm going to shift this over into our 3 rapid fire questions, then I'm going to turn it over to Carl. So are you ready for this, David?
Probably not, but let's go.
Oh,
I'm
these
never
are
ready
easy.
for a question.
What was your very first car?
72 Nova. Was a green beast.
Nova, nice. Okay. 72.
Was wonderful. I could drive it through the snow and just blaze through.
Yeah. All right. What was your favorite car you've ever had?
69 Camaro.
Oh, my dream car. All right. What would be your dream car? Money's not an option. Your dream vehicle, what would it be?
Probably an SF90 Ferrari would probably be one of the better cars, because it's an all-wheel drive. You can adjust the height with our shitty roads. I've driven a lot of exotic cars when I was at Motorworks and at Jacobs. I love some of the McLarens and some of the Lambos, don't get me wrong, but I'd probably say of the recent cars that I've driven, the SF90 is probably one of the greatest cars that I'd want to say I achieved to buy. But in reality, the best sports car is probably a 911 GT, GT3 RS, from a tracking car.
Nice.
So, in knowing the car business, I'm sorry not to give you one. Those are probably my two most favorite things in the world. Would be the SF90 and any 911 to me is an amazing product.
Nice.
Of course, it does a great job.
Yeah. All right, Carl. Time to go to words of wisdom.
Yes. So this, Dave, we kind of coined this because we're like, all right, we're doing all this knowledge. We try and educate, encourage, and entertain on this. And we definitely got an education about AI and automotive AI, and we'll continue this conversation with you. But what would you tell? This is our words of wisdom or wow question. What would you tell young Dave? I know you got some younger kids, but 18 or 16-year-old Dave, would you tell him that you wish you knew because you know it now?
Probably just love more, eat healthier, walk more. Get out and explore. I'm not saying you have to travel the world, but I'm just saying take a walk, take a breath, and relax. Everything is not really that important that you think it is, but what is important is your loved ones around you and the people in your inner circle. And I'm always looking to empower people and change people's lives, which is why I build a lot of GPTs for free. I just throw that knowledge out there so that people understand how. And the GPTs are always a prelude to a book or to an app or to some type of technology that I'm willing to help people with. I believe that you have to be giving and give a lot back to the universe to get anything. And I don't expect anything really from anyone. So I'm always training people and educating people, and I don't mind because, like I said, when I'm doing this, I'm learning. I'm learning you. I'm building a relationship. We're fixing each other, helping you fix a problem or you have a need. But at the same time, I want you to get to a point where you can evolve without that.
Yeah.
That you could do it on your own. And that's really the ultimate goal is that, to me is always to love more. I was very military and rigid and that hard-nosed coach that you'd meet. I, still have my ways that I have a very set process. I know that I drive a certain way. I wear a certain type of clothes, a certain shoes, and I very rarely pivot. That doesn't mean that I can't, but I think that learning to love more, learning to pivot more, learning to care more about people is very important. I probably should have adopted that when I was younger. I was led that, like most men, we lead from fog, fear, obligation, and guilt with others. And it took me a long time to realize that that was not the way that I wanted to raise my kids or help nurture the employees that somebody, trusted me with, in growing their sales floor, or let's say their marketing team. So I'm sorry to give you such a long-winded answer, but that's kind of the things I would change. I would do a better job at that stuff.
Good answer.
Well said. Well said.
Love more. Hey, Dave, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you before Stan signs us out here, what would be the best way for them to find you, track you down, get your free GPTs, whatever?
Yeah, most people find me on LinkedIn, but you can just call or text me. It's 630-290-1319. I get a couple thousand emails an hour. I get about 1,000 messages a month on LinkedIn. I get a lot of engagement and a lot of recruiters and a lot of people trying to sell me stuff, like all of us. So I'm overloaded with, messages. But if you text me, I'm going to look at every text message. I may have 2 million unread emails right now. And that's a fact, actually, for all my email boxes. I do have 44 accounts. But if you need me, just text me and I'll respond back. With most products, I don't have skin in the game, so it doesn't matter to me. I'll give you a straight shot, for your dealership or for everything. I consult from anywhere from restaurants to people in the health business to insurance people to helping people write a book. Those are all things that I've been blessed to have experience, and family and friends teach me how to do it. So I like passing on that wisdom and knowledge, and I'm not always right, but that's okay. We'll learn together.
Yep.
Nice.
Thank you, sir.
David, thank you so much, man. We really
Anytime.
appreciate your time, and I'm not kidding. We need to have you back on again sometime. But it's good seeing you again, and thank you so much for sharing your wealth of knowledge. Carl, it's always good to see you too, buddy.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
we could do it. We could do it without Carl some days. Come on. Think about
All right. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us for this edition of What Drives You. Remember, be good humans, and we'll see you again next time.
it. Take
Goodbye.
care.